Given that it's Christmas, I do have kind of a Christmas talk that I've given a bunch before in past years. So if anyone has heard it, I'm sorry for the redundancy, but it's really appropriate, and it's based off of an old famous Zen saying that's given to us apparently from an old Zen master in China in the 8th century. 8th century, I think. So what? 1300 years ago? It's crazy. Crazy. But it's quoted a lot. This Zen master's name is, I think, Qing Yuan Wei Xin. And I couldn't find much about him or where he falls in the lineage of Zen, so I'm not exactly sure how he's related to our specific lineage. Doesn't necessarily matter, but we do hear this saying a lot. And the phrase is, at first, there were mountains and rivers. Then there were no mountains and rivers. And then there were mountains and rivers. And he kind of uses this to present or express the journey of his own practice. And to kind of just unpack it briefly, at first, we take our life as given. We think that I and my stuff and my joy and my pain and my family and my dog and society and all the things are real and permanent and meaningful and exist in some kind of real way. And then through a lot of diligent practice, a lot of diligent sitting, following this ancient practice that the Buddha and all the ancestors handed down to us, we can have a real visceral experience of emptiness or oneness. And in that experience, again, this is not a philosophy. This is not a theory. This is not a science. This is a personal, visceral, body, mind, spirit, everything experience of totally dropping off and seeing for ourselves the emptiness of everything. All my concepts, all my labeling, all my conditioning, my identity, my needs, all of it totally empty, just one giant vastness. That's our life and that's our universe. And so that is the no mountains and no rivers. And then that's just getting started. That huge, explosive experience, that spiritual opening that decimates everything we think we know. It's just the beginning. And I personally think this is a philosophy or a theory or an opinion that I think all of us have had that experience in some way or another. We may not know what it is. We may just take it as indigestion, harkening back to Scrooge. But yeah, and Zazen helps us really cultivate and hone in on that experience. Totally letting go of everything. And then once we practice diligently with that and develop an intimacy with this emptiness, with this no self, then we're able to see the world of forms more clearly, with wisdom and compassion, without asserting my stuff into everything. And so that is the, once again, mountains and rivers. And that's our practice for eternity, constantly coming back to the mountains and rivers, to all of the things of our life and our mind, um, with that intimacy of nothingness, total emptiness. And that practice, and it's presented as this kind of linear thing. First I was this, then it was this, and then it was this. But really, I mean, it's a cyclical deal. And we're constantly getting caught up, or I am constantly getting caught up in the first mountains and rivers, thinking things are real, and getting caught up in my small self and my egotistical discursive mind, getting stuck. And then every time doing zazen, opening up to that reality of emptiness, and and then coming back. Really, that last one is the bodhisattva vow. That's the important part. The bodhisattva vow, which is a vow that most Mahayana Buddhists share. The vow of being of service to others. The vow to put awakening others, liberating the universe around me before myself. Really making that dedication. And if we just hang out in this no mountains and rivers place, then we get stuck there and we don't help people. And the only way to help people wake up, to help people alleviate suffering, is to come back to the mountains and rivers. So I think that's an important aspect of that third part, is our bodhisattva vow to live a life of service to others. When you do the koan practice, the very last koans you do are Tozan's 5 ranks. And I don't want to get into it too much, but basically the 5th rank, one of the verses or poems of the 5th rank, the ultimate rank, talks about, the great awakening, coming back to sit amongst the coals and ashes. And that might sound a little nihilistic. It might sound a little scary, apocalyptic. But I think it kind of harkens back to this mountains and rivers thing. We have that experience where the entire universe explodes in the fire of awakening. Everything drops off, but then we come back to sit and to tend to those coals. Anyway, the reason why I think this is appropriate, and I always talk about it during Christmas, is because a nice way to try to understand it is through Santa Claus. First, there is a Santa Claus. We think we're a kid, and we think that there really is this person from the North Pole flying around giving everyone presents. And then, I hope there's no young children on this particular but then we awaken to the fact that he's not real. There actually is no Santa Claus. That's the fact. But then, once we become intimate with that and we understand how we reconcile that, then we see that, of course, there's a Santa Claus. We all know what he looks like. We all know his name. We can point to him. We talk about him to our kids. We put pictures of him up. He's real. He's very much real. We all know about him. And I think the more that we can see our life like that, because think about it. How do you treat Santa Claus? He's not a source of pain for you. He's not a source of stress the way he was when you were a kid. And of course, I'm assuming I'm Jewish. I didn't, ever really have a Santa Claus as a kid. Maybe for a few years. Sorry, Mom. But yeah, at the beginning, it's kind of stressful. Like, oh God, is he going to think I'm good? What if I'm naughty? What if he misses us? What if I wake up? There's all these like stresses around Santa because we think it's a big deal. And then once we awaken to the emptiness of this concept, then we can deal with Santa Claus. We can call him real. We can talk about him. We can acknowledge his existence without all of that attachment to it. And so, it's not the perfect metaphor, but I think it kind of works for what we're trying to do here with our practice. And to bring it into kind of a real life context, so to make it a little more alive, I was talking with someone earlier this week about the feeling of being lost. We were both kind of resonating with this feeling that, I'm sure some of us, if not all of us, have had at some point in some kind of way of being lost. Everything we thought we knew has now changed. Losing a relationship, losing a loved one, breaking up with, changing a lifestyle, changing a job, changing a house, packing up and moving. In some way, I think we all have some kind of resonance with that, right? Things are topsy-turvy. I don't feel grounded. And it can be extremely painful having to change our life, having to let go of things. And so if we, and we were talking, and we also kind of came upon the fact that sometimes in these moments of lostness, ungroundedness, there's also the possibility of like freedom, of this could go anywhere, right? Possibility, opportunity. Same exact situation, same circumstances, different feeling. And so I just wonder how this Santa Claus, mountains and rivers concept or tool can kind of help us in our practice with our lostness. At first, we think that we are a thing separate from other things that had this thing, and now that thing is gone. And I'm experiencing sadness. This unfortunate event happens to me. And we can get stuck in thinking that that's really happening. And then through diligent practice, and again, trying to apply this as a theory is probably not going to work. It may for a little bit, and that's cool. But really, all these talks, all these tools are really alive and functioning if we can sit a lot with people, work with a teacher, find our edges, dive into silence, invite the shadow. It's the only way these things work. But through that diligent practice, we can open up to that experience of no mountains and rivers, no loss. There truly is nothing to lose. There's nothing to lose, nothing to gain. Every little voice that says, I want, I need, I have, I had, I should have, it's all made up. I really am convinced of that. It's all made up. Delusion. And through diligent, hardcore practice, we can see that for ourselves. Our little mind, our little self is going to fight against that tooth and nail forever. It's going to say, no, I'm a thing, I exist, and I matter, and what I want is what's important. And so we work with that. And yeah, so we can have that experience of totally letting go. And I am not separate from all those things I thought I had and or lost. And then from there, we can return to our life, to our relative world, where we have friends and we have desires and we have a house and we have a community. And we can now approach that life with a little more wisdom, a little more freedom, knowing that it's just Santa Claus, right? If we go around saying, there is no Santa Claus, there is no Santa Claus, there is no Santa Claus, no, 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 it's all bullshit. Take down the sign, stop saying that, stop singing the songs because it's not real. That doesn't help anybody. No, we feel confident in that emptiness and therefore can re-engage with our life and our relationships and our desires and our small self, but from a different perspective, with a little more openness, with a little more ability to pause, as Kosei shared. And so then all of a sudden that lostness can now kind of turn into, I wonder what else it could be. Knowing that there's nothing to lose. Then this feeling of loss that I have, what else could that be? Yeah. How else can I use Santa? How can this be fun? It reminds me of a koan that I talked about not too long ago, but it's a really juicy one. Case 30 something, I want to say, in the Mumon Khan, or the Gateless Gate. That's one of the collections of koans that we work with. And in the koan, I forget who it was, but one of our famous masters is meeting with his teacher, and they're doing dokusan or studying something long into the night. And the teacher says, it's getting late, you should probably go. And so his student bows, and he goes to leave the tent or the hut or wherever he is, and it's pitch black outside. And he's like, oh. He turns back and he says, teacher, it's like really dark out there. I don't really know where to go. And the teacher's like, okay, let me give you a lantern. So he grabs a lantern and he lights it and he hands it to his student. And just as the student is about to reach out and grab it, the teacher blows it out. And, you know, sitting with this for yourself and really seeing it, what's happening there for yourself is really what's important. Because he blows out the candle and the student has this major awakening experience. And, you know, this really, to me, feels like that shift from just the pain of loss to the openness of opportunity. That light in the dark, I know that feeling, grasping at something to help me see. It's so dark, I'm so lost. I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do. And then here's this help. Oh, well, take this. Take this. Just, you know, here's another relationship, or here's, you know, a good restaurant. I'll go to my good restaurant and that'll ground me. My favorite food, or, you know, grasping at anything to help me with this darkness. And so the teacher pretends to provide that for him. Oh, you're in pain? Here, just take this alcohol. just take this word of affirmation. And the guy's like, okay, thank God, thank God. Now I have light. Now I can see. It's not all gone. It's not all dark. And just as he's about to like lean into that relief, the teacher takes it away at just the right moment, right? If he did it at any other moment, it could just be mean, um, abusive even. But they have this intimacy, and the teacher knows where this guy is at. They just spent all day talking about their practice, and so he saw this perfect opportunity to slap him in the face with this total emptiness, this total darkness. Even this little bit of light that you want to hang on to, get rid of that too. And totally just lean into dark. Be lost. Let go of your need for the light, your need to know where to go. You can do it. Let go. And it worked. In this particular occasion, that message really came through for the student. And he had this awakening experience. And then the koan goes on, and the student goes in front of the assembly the next day and says, I will no longer doubt the words of the Buddha. And, it goes on. But yeah, blow out that light of Santa and embrace whatever is. And let all the mountains and rivers of your life reemerge with new possibility.